It all started with a man named Elijah Carter, a quiet, hard-working resident who loved one thing more than anything else: the little creek behind his home. The water sang softly through his backyard, feeding the grass, bringing birds every morning, and cooling the air on summer days. But the HOA saw something different. To them, Elijah's creek wasn't beauty, it was a violation. They said the natural flow made the neighborhood look unmanaged. One morning, Elijah woke up to rumbling machines. Workers were pouring thick concrete right into his creek. The sound of water choking under the weight of cement echoed like heartbreak. Elijah pleaded, showing his maintenance records, even photos proving the creek was clean and safe. But they didn't listen. They only saw rules, not reason. And in their effort to control nature, they started a disaster they couldn't imagine. Days turned into weeks. The once clear stream now lay dead, a silent slab of gray. Elijah watched as the soil began to darken. Without the creek's flow, rainwater had nowhere to go. It pooled, inch by inch, across the yards. The neighbors mocked him at first, laughing that his nature project had failed. But as the first heavy rain came, the laughter stopped. Water crept into gardens, drowned the roots of their flowers, and seeped into their basements. Elijah stood by his fence, watching the same people who ignored his warnings now panic as their pristine lawns turned to swamps. He had tried to save what was natural, and now, nature was taking back what was hers. The HOA called emergency meetings. They blamed faulty drains, heavy rainfall, anything except their own decision. Elijah sat quietly in the back, listening. When he finally stood up, the room fell silent. His voice was calm but heavy. "You buried a creek," he said. "And you thought you could bury its purpose, too." No one responded. They all knew he was right. The foundation of their own choices was cracking, literally. Homes began showing water damage. Driveways crumbled. Insurance refused to cover what they called preventable flooding. The HOA, who once boasted perfection, now faced a mess no one could mop away. Elijah became the talk of the town. Some called him the man who cursed the neighborhood. Others whispered apologies behind closed doors. But he didn't seek revenge. Every evening, he still walked the edge of the hardened creek, tracing the concrete with his fingers, feeling where the life once ran. He collected old photos, a before and after, proof that peace and pride had been traded for control and arrogance. Quietly, he filed a report with the local environmental office. Not for punishment, but for restoration. He believed nature deserved another chance, even if people didn't. Months later, engineers and inspectors arrived. The reports confirmed everything Elijah had warned about. The concrete blocked natural water paths, causing dangerous soil saturation and drainage collapse. The HOA faced heavy fines and repair orders. But money couldn't undo the damage. The community's trust was gone, replaced by silence and soggy yards. Yet, for the first time in months, Elijah smiled. Justice wasn't loud, it came in the slow return of accountability. He offered to help the crew draft a plan to reopen the creek. His voice, once ignored, now guided the solution everyone depended on. The work began under gray skies. Machines roared again, but this time not to destroy, to restore. As the concrete broke apart, the ground seemed to breathe again. When water finally trickled through, the sound was faint but pure. Neighbors gathered, watching it flow. The same sound they once called a nuisance now felt like relief. Children played near the edges, tossing pebbles into the stream. For Elijah, it wasn't about winning. It was about healing. Nature had forgiven them, but only after teaching a hard lesson: respect what you can't control. Weeks later, grass grew greener than ever. The creek sang louder, clearer, almost as if celebrating freedom. The HOA, humbled and changed, approached Elijah with gratitude. They offered him a position to oversee natural preservation for the community. He accepted, not for power, but purpose. The man who once stood alone now stood as a reminder of balance, between rules and respect, control and compassion. And every morning, as sunlight hit the sparkling water, Elijah whispered to himself, "Nature always finds her way back." The creek had returned, but more importantly, so had the heart of the neighborhood.